Sony's efforts in the mobile space over the past few years have been a mixed bag overall, but the Xperia 5 II and Xperia 5 prior are easily the best in recent memory for a number of reasons. Thanks for watching 9to5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then tap the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. It's often easy to lament smartphone OEMs for not pushing the boundaries or falling in line with design tropes or trends led by the likes of Apple and Samsung. Differences are kept to a minimum as to give the perception that this latest device shares some DNA despite being made by somebody else. Sony threw that playbook though out of the window in 2019, and while the Japanese firm's product lineup is fairly thin on the ground, I'm more than grateful for this tangential approach. The Xperia 5 II is just crafted beautifully. It feels expensive, sleek, and most importantly, unique. It's a refinement of the original Xperia 5, but with little changes that are instantly noticeable up close. Curves are softer, the buttons have a more satisfying click, and you can tell where the upgrades have been made from the very outset. Adding a dedicated Google Assistant button though is actually a frustrating new hardware inclusion. It's just not in a great place and just ends up cluttering quite an organised right side of the Xperia 5 II. Luckily, it is slightly recessed, so accidental presses shouldn't prove to be that much of a major problem day to day. Because this is an extra tall smartphone, in part due to that slimmer waistline, the button placement is an important one though. The power button is well placed for quick unlocks, but the fingerprint scanner isn't always 100% accurate, although it is fairly fast. On most smartphones, I do like being able to double tap the power button to open the default camera, but the Sony solution of a dedicated camera button that acts as a shutter control is even better. It's well placed for holding your phone in landscape, with a short hold launching the camera. And within the camera app, a semi-press activates the autofocus, which is deliciously analog and something I actually love seeing as a major differentiator. I've heard that people call the design overall plain, and while I'll agree to an extent, the shape alone has turned heads when I've used the Sony Xperia 5 II to make things like contactless payments. 21:9 is a fascinating shape for a smartphone, and one that endears it to me from a purely aesthetic perspective. Obviously there are usability trade-offs because of the elongated form. The display is thinner on the x-axis, which means that this Full HD Plus display has better reachability at least in one direction. It does make it hard to reach the upper portions of the device though, but certain software tweaks have been added to aid overall usability. The Xperia 5 II's Full HD Plus rated 120Hz AMOLED panel is fantastic though. It's by no means the best out there, but it's bright, clean and well tuned. Unlike many other OEMs, Sony has opted to retain fairly sizable bezels on the forehead and chin, which personally I do have no problems with. They're symmetrical for a start, which is probably why I can stomach them over some of the other unbalanced implementations out there. A bonus though to this bezel arrangement is that yes, the Sony Xperia 5 II comes with front-facing stereo speakers. That one inclusion alone is more than enough to justify the top and bottom screen borders, at least in my opinion. These prove to be important when viewing native 21:9 video content, as the immersion is upped substantially with powerful forward-facing audio. The 120Hz refresh rate makes everything feel responsive, and although you may see a battery dip, I strongly urge that you enable this option right away. It's the icing atop an already impressive display experience. So the Xperia 5 is now running the latest stable OS release. It's a fairly lightweight affair with the odd little extra added to try and differentiate from Android One and the Pixel experience. So to clarify, the Sony Xperia 5 II comes with late 2020 flagship internals. That means the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 over the 888, 8GB of RAM and 128GB of microSD expandable storage. This is probably more than enough to do anything a modern Android smartphone would hope to do. Gaming, multitasking, even video editing, nothing is off the table with these internals. The dedicated one-handed mode that you activate with a double side profile tap will launch a mini SideSense menu that is also such a godsend on a lengthy frame such as this. I do find it a little harder than it probably should be to activate every time, but it's a useful tool built into Sony's version of Android that helps make the most of the Xperia 5 II's large appendage, the display. A combination of the 120Hz refresh rate, powerful innards and fairly lightweight Sony Android skin means that the problem areas are almost non-existent for the latest Xperia flagship. I can't say I noticed any lag, nor did I encounter any game-breaking software bugs that I can actively recall. Other notables though include some tweaks to the audio experience. I think this is important to note. In tandem with the regular volume controls, you can enable dynamic vibration for haptic feedback in time with music or video. Evidence of this has been found in the core Android 12 build, and I think it will be a really popular addition to Pixel hardware because it works so well here when you're watching content. Of course, that does mean when watching movies, explosions and bangs are given extra emphasis and oomph to up the immersion just that little bit more. However, the haptics on the Xperia 5 II do remain pretty awful. They're lacking in any real depth and feel quite brittle compared to the likes of the Pixel 4 series and OnePlus 8T, two of Android's standouts for vibration related feedback. With the weight of the Sony Alpha team bearing down on the Xperia 5 II, you'd expect truly flagship level results, but I must admit though it's more of a mixed bag than you might have anticipated, at least when using the standard point and shoot auto modes. I have to say the optics are pretty good, the results can be excellent, but the experience is one of compromise at times. Post-processing is minimal, which means the images are ready to go. They're kind of harder to achieve, at least with this triple camera setup. I personally found that I did have to work a little to get really awesome end results. Now that's not to say that photos are bad when you just point and shoot, because it's far from it. I actually like this aspect of the Xperia camera system. If you put a little time and effort in with the Pro modes, you can do things that some other smartphones simply can't do. If I do want fine controls though, I'm personally more prone to my dedicated mirrorless camera with tactile feedback and button controls that I know inside out. Sony smartphone enthusiasts will be in love with the full manual controls and will surely get the most out of the triple 12 megapixel camera setup on offer here though. For those of us who are just happy to shoot with auto settings, there is plenty to love, including the dedicated shutter button. I'd love to see more smartphones include one, but you can achieve the same with volume keys on most devices now. But the kicker here is that you can actually use the volume controls to adjust zoom levels, which is actually pretty much genius, as you can almost fully control the camera without having to tap the display and obscure your viewfinder. Unless you're happy to delve into up to 2 more potential apps for your photo and video needs, then the default camera application does okay. That said, the 3x telephoto mode on the auto mode is fairly solid, while the ultra wide angle manages to stay sharp and detailed even into the fringes. Main wide shots are pretty decent, and I'm sure you'll be happy with the end results, but I never felt wowed at any point. By 2020 or early 2021 standards, the Sony Xperia 5 II's 4000 mAh battery is fairly modest in size. It's still plenty big enough to keep you going until the latter portion of even a busy day though. To eke out a little more lifespan, you could disable the 120Hz refresh rate on the display, but that will be a crying shame unless you simply don't care about smoother performance and animations. I found that with 5G enabled, it did take a little toll on my battery life, but it wasn't quite as detrimental as some other devices I have tried with the super fast connectivity included. Luckily, with COVID-19 restrictions thoroughly in place, when using Wi-Fi all day, things are absolutely fine, and 5 to 6 hours of screen on time are a breeze with the Xperia 5 II. I was disappointed though to find out that wireless charging is not included here, but even though I like plonking a phone down on a Qi charging pad to top up, I'm still fairly content with wired charging. Like the Pixel series though, Sony has stuck with 18 watt charging speeds, which I don't think warrants the term fast nowadays. The Xperia 5 II is, at least in our opinion, the best Sony smartphone you can go out and buy right now. It's finely crafted with a few little annoying touches, but the package on offer here is undoubtedly premium with that typical Sony flair and fine tuning. You might balk at that $900 entry pricing, but if you want something a little different in a good way, then this slender smartphone might be one to take a look at. Sure, the auto camera modes could do with some tweaks to really compete directly with the best in the business, but overall, we've not been left wanting at any point with the Xperia 5 II. Yes, of course, this device doesn't come with the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset, but it's still a powerful smartphone that will handle just about everything you can throw at it and keep coming back for more. While it's not in quite the same league as the likes of the Galaxy S21, the Xperia 5 II is Sony's best flagship for some time. With all of that said though, be sure to let us know what you think of Sony's latest and greatest smartphone down in the comment sections below. But until next time, this is Damien with 95Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.